never felt anything like that before. And, the things that were the things that were meaningful before, being married, which I was getting a divorce and having my book business, those things didn't obviously hold the same meaning for me. And so I just felt strongly pulled by Nepal and the Himalayas. And so May 2nd, 2002 came along, and I was on that plane traveling to Kathmandu. And I remember getting off that plane at the Kathmandu airport and walking down the steps and going, oh my God, what the hell did I just do?
Did you have accommodation yet?
Yeah, I had planned things out, and I had a little itinerary of what I was going to do. The first thing I was going to do was hang out in Kathmandu for a few weeks, acclimate, and then do a trip to this holy mountain in Tibet called Mount Kailash, and do a circumambulation of Mount Kailash, a little pilgrimage. And that was a couple of week journey. And then from there, I was going to somehow illegally travel to Mount Everest in Tibet without a permit. I was going to break away from the group. And actually, I did all these things. I had this incredible journey, spent several weeks in Tibet. And from there, I could, spend hours just talking about these individual stories of, what it was like to illegally travel and hitchhike in Tibet to get to Mount Everest Base Camp and on the Tibetan side of Everest. And then, lots of crazy things that I did, and lots of wonderful experiences. And then I went into Lhasa, and then from Lhasa, I went into China, and went into Beijing, and kept on going north into Mongolia and into Siberia, and flew to Russia and climbed the tallest mountain, Mount Elbrus in Russia. And,
wow.
And then I came back to Nepal and did a couple of treks again in Nepal. And I was in a cafe in Kathmandu, having dinner, hanging out. And this guy sat down, and I started talking to him. And, we were chit-chatting, and I said, well, what do you do? And he says, well, I lead trips, all over Nepal and India. And he said, my name is Jamie McGinnis. And I went, Jamie McGinnis, And then I looked at the trekking book that I had in my hand, and it was written by him. And I was
wow.
Like, oh. So he said, yeah, I'm going to Ladakh, India. And he said, do you want to come? And I said, okay. So I was off to Ladakh. And Ladakh, India is just this absolutely incredible place. And we went and did this exploratory trek in the mountains of Ladakh. And it was the second day of the trip, October 2nd, 2002. And I was about 15,000 feet high, overlooking this absolutely stunning valley. And I had this epiphany. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. Epiphany, a peak experience, a
major monumental insight,
a vision, a religious experience. I don't know how I can't really explain it, but I got it in my head that I was going to organize a world peace climb on Mount Everest. And all of these ideas and thoughts just came flooding into my head. And I had my little notebook, and I was writing it down, Everest Peace Project, then, people of different faiths and cultures, and a climb for peace. And literally for an hour, I was just writing all this stuff down. And I was just, something like that never happened to me before. I just felt like I was, this receptor, and all these energies were flowing into me. And so I guess you could say I felt a little bit like Frodo in Lord of the Rings, that I was handed this task. So I made a vow on that mountaintop in Ladakh, India, that I was going to make this crazy idea of having a world peace climb on Mount Everest become a reality. And, to this day, people ask me, where did that come from? And, I just kind of say, well, I was 15,000 feet high, maybe it was a lack of oxygen in the air.
What some people say is that when you place yourself where you're drawn, what is yours is given to you. It's by grace. It's actually given to you. And that's what you did.
At that point, I went back to Kathmandu, all energized. And the problem was I had really no idea of what I was going to do or how to organize a world peace climb. And I stumbled a bit and I learned from my mistakes and basically did the next phase of my life, which was trying to make this world peace climb happen. And the first steps were basically, create a website, kind of create some kind of organizational stability, and then find climbers. I wanted to have a climb with teammates that were people of different faiths and cultures. And just finding a Palestinian climber took a couple of years because really they don't exist. It was we did a worldwide search trying to find Ali Bushnaq, our quote Palestinian climber, and we had a couple of Israelis on our team, and we had a black South African climber, which was very hard to find. People of color don't climb Everest, and so that took a couple of years. We got a Hindu climber from India, and so just this whole diverse group of people, and of course a climber. I didn't want to have a bunch of stinky men just on the expedition, so we got this wonderful woman named Tanya Riggs, on our team, and so that whole process pretty much took almost 3 years. But the real hard part was, of course, trying to fund this thing. And I remember having a conversation with my brother, and he said, Lance, you're doing a climb on this inherently dangerous mountain where people die each year. You've got Palestinian and Israelis on your team. We're fighting 2 wars in the Middle East. We've got a president, then President Bush, who's not exactly pro-peace. And you want to find a sponsor to pay for this? Are you insane? And I said, well, maybe I'm insane, but it's going to happen.
Did you have a knowing about that?
I don't know about a knowing. I mean, I just, I guess you could say, yeah. I mean,
you felt it was fundable. The bottom line.
Yeah.
Is.
I mean, I knew that this wasn't a pipe dream, that it was doable. And deep down, I guess you could say I'm a pessimistic optimist. In other words, I could have these grand dreams and envision these grand dreams and know deep down that somehow it's going to happen, but I'll worry about it all along the way. And
totally understood.
And that may go straight against the whole be positive about everything and things will come your way. But for me, it seems to work. I would just have this firm belief it's going to happen, but then just worry about the details. So, I knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors and got them all either no one would answer, or they just open them up and then slam them, straight shut back at me. And it was very frustrating because I knew this thing was going to be a great event and a meaningful event and something that really should be done. And so I just had a firm belief that I was going to make this happen. And lo and behold, Panasonic Toughbooks, they make these indestructible laptops. They came on as our main sponsor and basically funded the expedition. And once they came aboard, we got several more financial sponsors. And we had an expedition. So, we got the team, we got the funding, everything was all in place. And now all we had to do was, climb Mount Everest.
All you had to do.
Yeah, small little detail.
Yeah. During the 3 years where you were still pulling in the team, calling in the team, looking for the correct people, were you at all getting discouraged you weren't going to find them? Or were you concerned also that it may take too long and 5 years of your life could be gone looking for the team? Or did you always feel it was worth taking the time, whatever it took to get the right people?
Well, yeah, again, I'm somebody who tends to worry a little bit. So all those concerns came my way, and certainly I was frustrated.